followed by cats everywhere we go. A moment of silence between them is shattered, causing them to both jump in fright, a scratching sound that can be heard on each side of the van door. Both Becca and Ross stare at each other in fear. As the scratching gets louder, Ross and Becca both let out a girly squeak. "You go see what it is!" Squabbling with each other, neither Ross nor Becca wants to investigate the constant scratching against their van door. "Becca!" Ross says, pushing at her sides as he fights his way into the corner of the seating. "Ross!" Becca replies, fending him off with ease thanks to her larger frame. "Becca!" Ross whines again, higher-pitched and whiny. "Answer the damn door before I kick you in the nuts!" "You wouldn't dare," Becca responds with a chuckle, holding back Ross's sweaty body with one hand. "Wouldn't I?" "No," Becca laughs, finding his attempts to move her comical. "I'm taller and bigger than you now, so nah. Ross stops fighting and looks Becca dead in the eyes. "You've not had a direct hit to the family jewels, have you?" he asks with a glint of naughtiness in his eyes. Becca swiftly covers her newly dangly parts and gives Ross a dissatisfied look. "Go find out what the noise is," Ross says, waving a fist like he's trying to punch her in the nuts. For a moment, the two are in a Mexican standoff. Becca covers her parts, and Ross threatens to hit them. The silence between them only intensifies the sound of the loud scratching coming from outside. It becomes too much for Ross, and he looks down at his half-naked body and gets very frustrated with her. "Becca!" he whines, lowering his fist. "I'm in my bra, for goodness sake. Please just go find out what that scratching is." Looking at his almost naked torso, Becca smirks. "Fine," she says, reluctantly taking pity on him as she pushes him aside with ease. Shoved back into the seat, Ross tries to cover himself with his arms as Becca stands at the door with a worried look on her face. It's the sort you'd reserve for a haunted house. Not quite scared, but concerned about a potential jump scare. Nervously biting his lip, Ross gives Becca the nod to open the door. Fearlessly, Becca grabs the handle with her large hands and throws open the door. The heavy door slides and stops with a clank, but she sees nobody standing at the door. There's no apparent reason for the scratching noise in sight. Becca pokes her head out of the van and looks around in confusion. Thinking they might have imagined it, she leans back into the van and slides the door closed. Nothing, Becca says to Ross in bemusement. As she turns her attention to Ross, she sees him pulling a face of utter terror. Ross glances at her quickly before pointing at the table. "Cat," Ross says, spooked by its sudden appearance. Sitting upon their table is a single black cat. It has a sort of smug smile on its face as it stares at Ross. It crept in as soon as Becca slid open the van door without her noticing. "Why are you so scared, Ross?" Becca asks. "It's just a cat." "You've become so timid recently." "Just a cat?" the feline gripes, turning to give Becca a sharp look. "That's no way to talk to one of your people, Prince. I'm offended you'd refer to me as such a lowly earth animal." Becca's jaw drops as she stares in disbelief at the talking cat. I knew it!" Ross exclaims, breaking the silence. "I knew something was up with the cats around here. I bet this is the same one that keeps following me." The black cat gives Ross a sour look as it switches its attention to him. "Cat," it growls. "Yes, it was me that followed you this morning. Also, stop calling me a cat." Ross rolls his eyes. "Okay, fine," he replies belligerently. "If you're not a cat, then what are you?" "My name is Fritz," the cat says proudly, but then gives Ross a sharp eye. "I'm a grimalkin, by the way," he continues, giving him a snarky tone. Looking back at Becca, Fritz bows his head. "Nice to finally meet you, Prince. It's an honor for me to finally be speaking with you after all these years of waiting for your reemergence." "Prince?" Becca questions sourly. "Please, call me Rebecca, or Becca for short. I just don't like this whole prince stuff." Fritz nods, then looks Becca up and down in confusion. Why aren't you in your hybrid form? Becca tilts her head and gives Fritz a dumb look. Hybrid? She asks, looking at Ross like Fritz is crazy. I'm not a car, you silly cat. Fritz doesn't take Becca's words kindly. He shows his fangs and hisses in reaction. I'm not a cat. Becca raises both her hands and awkwardly laughs it off. Okay, she replies. So, what did you mean by hybrid? I heard rumors that a second hybrid has been created in order to take down Green, Fritz replies, looking utterly confused by Becca's standard human male appearance. I thought it was you, or at least that's what I believe was supposed to happen. Hold up a second, Ross interrupts. Green? Ross spins the laptop on the counter to face Fritz. On the screen is a website documenting Professor Green, which they'd been reading moments earlier. When you say, take down Green, do you mean this guy? Professor Rupert Green? Fritz looks at the screen. Interesting, he says, looking closely at the small picture of Rupert Green. Is that what it looked like before becoming a traitor and utterly corrupted? Ross and Becca give each other a funny look. Neither really knows what Fritz is going on about. We met a man called Elm, Becca says, kneeling down to be at the same height as Fritz on the table. He spoke to me about a person called Green. I assume this Green person is the enemy of your kind? Yes, Fritz nods. We used to refer to him as the anomaly. Many years before the collapse of Ubixis, a human man appeared. A member of another species coming through our portals was completely unheard of at the time. It freaked everyone out, and if it wasn't for the quick work of a nearby Formador, he would have died. Ross blows a raspberry. This is all crap, Becca, he complains. This is just some big old joke. How do we know this talking cat isn't like an AI-controlled robot or something? The way it's talking would make it an alien. It's ridiculous. Fritz scowls at Ross. However, he looks past the talking cat and at his girlfriend, who kneels beside the table. Becca, think about it, Ross says, pleading his point. If this alien race of cats existed, wouldn't they need spaceships? Not to mention the fact that they need faster-than-light travel as well. Ugh. I thought you'd have ditched this human by now, Prince. Fritz shakes his head in derision. We traveled to this world through our portals, if you must know. Portals? Ross replies, laughing at the notion. Prince. Fritz turns to Becca, looking for her to back him up. Tell this stupid monkey what we Grimalkins can do. Show her the portal. Becca's eyes grow wide, and she doesn't know what to say. A portal? She asks, pretending to know what Fritz is saying. I, can't show her right now. Expecting Fritz to be annoyed by that answer, he just nods and smiles. Yeah, of course, he begrudgingly replies. You don't have a sword. Not saying a word more to Becca, Fritz stares at Ross. You can leave now, human girl. I'll protect the prince from here, just as my father did before me. I'm not leaving, Ross grunts angrily in reply. Also, don't assume my gender. Cat. Yeah, don't be mean to him. Her, Becca says in support. I love Ross. And if you've been following us, you'll know we're searching for a means to remove that makeup from her face. Fritz glances at Becca, then glances at Ross. Are you serious? Fritz asks, looking irritated at the princess. You're destined to rebuild the Grimalkin royal family, and you've fallen in love with... Fritz pauses to look Ross up and down. This gender-confused human? Offended, Ross gives Becca a stunned look, wanting her to stand up for him. I knew I should have stepped in, Fritz laments, looking down at the table. I knew as soon as Green became active that I should have taken you to a safe place. This is all my fault. What do you mean by that? Becca asks, tapping Fritz lightly on the head. You make it sound like you've been following me for years. I have. That's why, Fritz replies, swiping at Becca's finger with his paws. Although I'm stuck in this feline body, I'm not going to give up on my family's traditions to protect the royal family. How have you? Becca asks, having never seen Fritz before. I've been watching you from afar, Fritz answers. Elm thought you'd be safer, ignorant of our kind and in your female disguise. I disagreed, so I've been watching you ever since. Okay, then? Becca says uncomfortably, uneasy by the idea that she's been followed all her life. So, why talk to me now, if you've been hidden all these years? I'm scared, Fritz replies plainly. Of Green? Ross asks, reminding them both that he is still around. Fritz turns to look at Ross, and his expression is heavy with worry. Exactly that. You don't know what Green is capable of. Suppose he gets a hold of the other pieces of the orb. If that happens, he'll be able to eradicate all life on this planet by opening a supermassive portal. What? Becca asks, rather bemused. I'm starting to agree with Ross. You're making this stuff up. Fritz furrows his brow and glares in Becca's direction. I wish I was. Ross leans forward and taps Fritz on the head to get his attention. If you think we're going to believe some random, weird talking cat about a doomsday that's on the horizon, you've got another thing coming, kitty. Fritz hisses at Ross, but quickly focuses on something else. Please tell me you've still got the makeup box. Ross looks at Becca, hoping she knows where it is. Under the seat, Becca replies, sighing because she's told Ross that so many times. As Ross gets off his backside and flips up the seat cushion to grab the makeup box, Fritz sighs a breath of relief. Open it, please, Fritz requests as Ross places the box on the table. I need to see inside. Ross looks at Becca, and she agrees to it. Facing the box in both Fritz and Becca's direction, Ross slowly peels back the lid. The makeup inside seems normal, but a faint glow can be seen emanating from within. Becca steps forward and leans over the box. She's never seen it glow before. Such vibrant colors shine bright on their faces. That's odd, Fritz says, commenting on the colors. Prince, he says, turning to look at Becca. Have you seen the makeup look like this before? No, Becca replies, stunned by what she sees. Ross, impatient with the talk of doom and aliens, spins the makeup box around so he can see it for himself. What are you guys talking about? Stop trying to wind me up. A little shocked to see the faint glow for himself, Ross reaches to pick up the mascara. As he brings it to his face, the lights in his eyes go completely dull. It's almost like someone has flipped a switch in his brain and turned him off. The makeup in his hands falls to the floor, and his body goes entirely limp. Ross! Becca screams, reacting to his lifeless body. Oh my god! What happened to him? Fritz peers over the edge of the table at Ross's body, lying unconscious. Very interesting, he remarks. Very interesting indeed. Frantically checking that he's breathing, Becca gives Fritz an angry look. What did you do to him? She asks with a threatening tone. Nothing, Fritz replies honestly. I'm just as confused as you are. Fritz looks at Ross's lifeless body and starts to wonder. Prince, Fritz says, knowing he's seen this reaction to pieces of the orb before. Who is this human? Has this ever happened to them before? She... He is... Becca replies, all flustered. No, this has never happened before. Is she going to be okay? I don't know, Fritz answers carefully. I really just don't know.